was a big deal to me to be able to come here and swim. There's Heather and Katie, and this is Lake Michigan. Now, looks sort of like the ocean, but no waves like you have on the ocean. And there goes Katie and Heather down to the water. It's a dreary, rainy day, so it doesn't look as pretty as it could. There's the pier, or whatever you want to call it, jetties going out from St. Joe. Decided she might get out. It's chilly. Again, I'll get a picture of the St. Joe lighthouse and jetties. Oops, guess that's as close in as you're going to get. And there's Grandma. She's our tour guide today on this dreary, rainy, chilly Michigan day. Oops. Don't fall.
I didn't want to follow it all the way around there.
They're having fun now. They were getting sort of bored, but now they're running along the shores of Lake Michigan Beach. Behind a tree, and out they come. Woo! There goes all the seagulls. That ought to make a nice picture. We're here. It's the corner of, let me see, I saw the sign, it's here somewhere. There it is. Pawpaw Lake and Hager Shore Road is the corner where back years ago we have some moving pictures of Joanne and I coming out of this little store. Of course, it looked a little different, not quite so modernized. I don't think those things happened then either. Anyway, and right over here is where we came. Someone had a horse. We got on a horse and rode it, and Grandma Meter and my mother and Grandma Jenny were there, and they're in the movies. And this is a little spot where we had ice cream cones and would stop once in a while for an ice cream cone. This happens to be my mother's uncle's farm that he built way back in the early part of 1936. John Aspengren, son of Carl Aspengren, who came from Sweden. And the farmland here did belong to Carl, the father, and he sold some, or gave some of the acreage to his son, and he built this house. You wouldn't know that this house was this old. It's a very well-kept little farm. As you can see, my mother said it looks a lot like it did before. And as you can see, all of these are blueberries here on this side and over here, as far as you can see. And they're all right ready to pick now too. Street, just to give you an idea of all the people that are growing blueberries right here. This is all blueberries too. Did belong to my grandfather, great-grandfather. You could see up here, you could see the house, which is the house that he built after the house that he first had burned down. This went on to belong to my Uncle Fred after he died, and I came here many times as a girl. These buildings here are new. They weren't there. There were just some barns and things when he was here, but this is the old house that was rebuilt when my mother was just a young girl after the farmhouse burned down. And it's all in blueberry farms. It looks very well kept and nice right now. And Uncle Fred and Annie Florence, who were going to visit in a nursing home in Chicago, Uncle Fred died of leukemia while he lived here, and Annie Florence sold it and moved to Sawyer, Michigan. But I remember traipsing out around here as a little girl. My mother lived here as a little girl and a young girl. And Uncle Fred and Annie Florence never had any children. But they ran this farm together for 20-some years and raised blueberries and evergreens. They had an evergreen nursery also. And his father before that, Carl Peter Aspengren, who came from Sweden with his wife and family, moved to this place and bought it. I think it was 80 acres. Bought it with his sons living here also, and they raised gladiolas, fruits, vegetables, and later on Uncle Walt raised the blueberries and the evergreens. It's a very lovely area here in Michigan. Quite lovely. And so there's a lot of family history right on this spot. I'm taking a picture right now of my mother standing on the spot where she and her mother had a small little home, and her brother, after they moved here from Chicago, I mean not Chicago, but DeKalb, Illinois, they moved to Grandma Jenny Carlson's father's farmhouse, which is right there. This is the farm I was talking about a minute ago, and they had a little house right here, and the three of them, Uncle Leonard, Marion, and Jenny Carlson, my grandmother. And this was the land. These trees, my mother said, were still there, were the ones that were there when she was young. So that's quite interesting. This brings back a lot of good memories to her, because she loved this farm here. This was her best place she ever was in her life. There's Grandma out there. Heather, move to the side.
Stop.
Katie, move, please. There she is, thinking of memories and looking for memories. I remember spending the night here with my grandmother, Jenny, sleeping in a bed with her at night and listening to the whippoorwills going, whippoorwill, whippoorwill, whippoorwill at night. I remember that very distinctly as a good memory. Grandma Jenny lived in this little house even when I was a little girl. This is Uncle Fred's farm and Carl Peter Aspengren's farm before him. This is the front. This is where I came a lot when I was a little girl. All down in here, though, was evergreens. They're blueberries now. It's just a blueberry farm. But Uncle Fred, he raised blueberries and evergreens. And these people just raised blueberries. But down in here where gladiolas were raised for with Carl Peter Aspengren when he had the farm originally. This is the drive up. And I'd like to say that right over here was a sign that said, "Our Farm, Fred Aspengren, Evergreen Nursery and Blueberries," which was a special sign that I wish I could get a hold of. It's probably rotted away and gone now, but I remember it was called Our Farm. Just across the street here is a blueberry farm, and if you'll notice, there are a blueberry picking machine going right down the rows of the blueberries, picking the blueberries by machine. Now, I don't know how in the world it does it unless it sort of lightly shakes the bushes and the ripe berries fall off. But that's interesting. I've never seen that before. I guess a lot of people that have blueberry farms, if they've got a lot of money, they can buy a machine like this and don't have to pay the migrant farm workers around here, which are mostly Mexican from what I hear. Closer to the house, and this is the house of C.P. Aspengren and Fred Aaron Aspengren, the family farm of Marion Carlson Meter's relatives who came from Sweden, and where Carol Jean Meter Gillum used to come a lot as a little girl and visit her uncle and aunt. It's a nice looking house even today. Could be painted up and fixed up real nice. It's a real pretty setting among these trees. It'd just be natural.
This big tree was here when I was just a little girl, and it used to have a great big rock on the other side, a great big one, and I used to sit on that and crack walnuts, take walnuts and get a hammer and crack walnuts right here on the other side of this tree. There was a corn crib. Can you see this side of that barn? That's a horse barn. And there used to be a corn crib right on this side of the barn where you can see where something's been torn off of it. Back in the good old days there, they had a horse named Jack and one named Dan. And the barn used to be red. It was painted red. My uncle...
You can see the red right there. They put siding over it, but you can see the old red of the barn.
To the farm. Where the horses used to be. And the horses would come in from the other side. And this is a hayloft up above here. And this was just used as a garage in here. The door would slide over, open up, and they'd use it as a garage.
Uh-huh.
Right over here was the cow barn. You can still see a little bit of the foundation of the cow barn over here, the cement from the foundation. There's pasture over here.
And this is the cow barn foundation right here. It's still there.
Let's see, the outhouse was out over this direction.
Close to the house, I guess.
Yeah, that about how big it was. I saw in the picture.
That's the exact house, Katie.
There was the outhouse, it was right out somewhere in here. I don't know exactly, but it was about in here.
And what did you have on the walls?
Well, it was old movie star pictures all tacked on the walls, inside walls of the outhouse.
I remember seeing those pictures myself when I was little.
I think at the L&E at Paw Paw Lake they used to have them. You'd get them in machines, I think it was. And Leonard and I tacked them inside the outhouse. Have you been out to blueberries?
Yeah, they're delicious. They're beautiful and fat, and they're delicious.
And these were Aspengren Farm blueberries. Girls, you can get in the picture with Grandma Meter. She talks about the place. Well, it was there. It's a tree, but